A stranger in Hurghada, sometimes, belonging where you least expect it. A freestyle American English original story. I wasn't supposed to stay that long. Hurghada was just a stop, a place between plans, between flights, between versions of myself. But one morning, something changed. I decided to stop wandering and start belonging. I didn't know it yet, but that choice to become a stranger in Hurghada would teach me more about connection than any journey I'd ever taken. The morning heat. The first sound I remember that morning wasn't the call to prayer, though it echoed softly over the rooftops. It was the sound of shutters opening, one by one, as the market came alive. The air was already warm, heavy with salt from the Red Sea, mixed with a faint smell of diesel from the passing trucks. Hurghada mornings always had that strange mix, beauty and grit. I was sitting at a small cafe, sipping thick Egyptian coffee, the kind that leaves a map of your future at the bottom of the cup if you know how to read it. The owner smiled at me, he always did, because he knew I was the foreigner who stayed too long, talked too much, and bought too little. But that morning felt different. I didn't want to just wander through the streets or dive into the sea. I wanted to blend in. To feel the rhythm of the city, not as a tourist, but as someone who belonged. And that's how it all began, with one idea, one ridiculous idea that somehow made perfect sense in the moment. I would open a spice stand. Not to make money. Not to sell, but to share something. I had a few small sacks of spices from my travels: cinnamon from Zanzibar, cardamom from Istanbul, saffron from Iran. I carried them more like memories than ingredients. And that morning, I decided to turn those memories into a story that people could touch, smell, and taste. The market awakens. The market in Hurghada isn't quiet, not for a second. It breathes. It moves. It talks. By the time I arrived, the air was filled with shouts, vendors calling out prices, children chasing each other, cats weaving between crates of mangoes. And the colors, my God, the colors. Red chilies piled like burning embers. Bright blue dye that looked like crushed sky. Yellow turmeric shining like morning sunlight. I found a corner, small, shaded, near an old shop that sold oils and incense. The owner, an old man with a beard like white cotton, looked at me with half suspicion and half curiosity. "You sell spice?" he asked. I nodded. "I tell stories," I said. He laughed. "Then you fit right in." I spread out the sacks. The smell hit instantly: cinnamon, clove, dried hibiscus, cumin. It was like opening a time capsule of my travels. I didn't have a sign, no name, just a wooden stool, a few jars, and my voice. And soon enough, people started stopping. A stranger with a stand. At first, they didn't know what to make of me, a foreigner selling spices in a local market. Some thought I was filming a documentary. Others thought I was lost. But I wasn't lost. I was exactly where I wanted to be. "Come one, come all," I called out, raising a small cup of tea in my hand. "Try my spices, I guarantee you will have a ball." The words came out half in English, half in laughter. A few people smiled. Some stopped. And that's all it takes, one curious glance. A woman picked up a handful of cinnamon sticks, smelled them, and asked, "Where is this from?" "Zanzibar," I said proudly. "It smells like the ocean and history." She laughed, bought a few, and left. But not before saying something I'll never forget: "You talk about spices like you talk about people." That was the moment I realized, this stand wasn't just about selling. It was a conversation starter, a bridge between worlds. The language of spice. You learn quickly in a market, spices speak their own language. Cinnamon is warmth. Cardamom is memory. Cumin is comfort. And saffron is poetry. Every culture has its flavor, its smell, its rhythm. And if you listen closely, you can taste the story it tells. As people came and went, I began telling those stories. How cinnamon once traveled the Silk Road. How saffron was more valuable than gold. How paprika came from explorers who chased sunsets across oceans. I wasn't teaching. I was sharing. I was alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. The locals laughed, tourists gathered, and soon, I had a small crowd. Not because they wanted to buy something, but because everyone wanted to feel something. And that's what spice does, it connects you to the earth, to time, to people you've never met. The first customer. Around noon, a fisherman stopped by. His hands were rough, his skin darker than the sea itself. He pointed at a bag of chili flakes. Strong? He asked. Like your patience, I said. He grinned, poured some into his hand, and took a pinch right on his tongue. His eyes widened. Good, he said, slapping my shoulder. We shared tea. I asked him about the sea, and he asked me about the world. He told me, the sea gives everything, but she tests you first. That line stuck with me. Because that's how travel feels, too. The world gives, but it tests you first, your patience, your humility, your openness. Before he left, he said, you talk like an old Egyptian. I said, maybe I just listen like one. Stories in the steam. As the afternoon sun baked the street, I poured myself another glass of mint tea and let my mind wander. The scent of spices took me back to the markets of Istanbul, where I first fell in love with noise and chaos. To the alleys of Zanzibar, where I learned that a smile could open more doors than money ever could. Each spice was a postcard. Each smell, a story. In Zanzibar, a woman once told me, a spice is alive. Treat it with respect, or it loses its soul. I never forgot that. Here in Hurghada, I could feel that same soul, breathing through every conversation, every sale, every passing glance. The woman in the blue veil. Later that day, a woman approached my stand. She wore a blue veil, her eyes bright like the Red Sea at dawn. She didn't say much at first. Just stood there, studying the colors. Then she asked quietly, do you have something for homesickness? That question hit me hard. I thought for a moment. Then I reached into my bag and took out a small jar of saffron. This one, I said. It tastes like sunlight. When you miss home, open it. Let it remind you that the world still has warmth. She smiled beneath her veil. You sell more than spices, she said. And in that moment, I felt something shift inside me. Because she was right. Maybe that's what I'd been doing all along, selling memories disguised as flavor. The wisdom of the market. As the day grew older, the market changed its rhythm. The shouting softened. The laughter deepened. The scent of grilled fish filled the air. I leaned back in my chair and watched the world move, not fast, not slow, but with purpose. The market is a mirror of life. Everyone's selling something, time, energy, dreams, even stories. You learn to bargain, to trust, to walk away, to forgive. An old man sat beside me and said, the market teaches patience. If you wait long enough, everything you want passes right in front of you. He was right. I wasn't looking for profit. I was looking for presence, and I had found it in the simplest place. The sunset lesson. The sun began to fall, painting the buildings in gold. Children ran barefoot through the dust, their laughter echoing off the walls. I gave them dried hibiscus petals, they loved the color. One boy asked if they were candy. No, I said, but they taste like a smile. They laughed, ran off, and left me alone with the evening breeze. In that moment, I realized something I'd never understood before. Happiness doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it hums softly, in the scent of tea, the sound of laughter, the color of paprika in the sun. That's the thing about travel, it's not about where you go. It's about how much of yourself you're willing to give to the moment. The spice of life. By nightfall, the market quieted. The lights flickered, and the sea breeze carried the smell of salt and smoke. I packed up my sacks, lighter now, not because I'd sold much, but because I'd shared much. As I walked away, I looked back at the stand, small, ordinary, and yet somehow magical. It wasn't about the spices. It was about connection. Travel had taught me many things, how to listen, how to laugh, how to live without rushing. But that day in Hurghada taught me one lesson I'll never forget. We're all merchants of memory, travelers of time, searching for a flavor that reminds us who we are. Some people sell gold. Some sell dreams. That day, I sold a handful of color, and found my soul in the dust of a marketplace by the sea. And that's the story of the spice stand of Hurghada. If you ever find yourself walking through a market, anywhere in the world, stop for a moment. Breathe it in. Listen. Every voice, every scent, every color has a story. Maybe you'll remember this one. And maybe you'll tell your own. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who loves travel, stories, and the little moments that give life its flavor. Because sometimes, all it takes is one small moment to change how you see the world forever.